Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Always love talking with this gentleman. His history runs deep and it's so versatile. He is an accomplished architect, renowned in the greater New York area, states surrounding it as well. And that's what he does now. He still plays a little tennis on the weekend and teaches from time to time. But his beginning wasn't architecture, it was tennis. He's a tennis legend. Just released a new book too. We're going to talk more about that book and the journey, and maybe it'll inspire some things in us to maybe deflect and change our journey. He is architect John Riggio, back with us on the program. How you doing today, John?
Great. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
Very well, very well. Congratulations again on the book, and it's taking on new shape and form. Just released on Kindle recently, is that right?
Yes, the book is now available on Kindle. It's the same page on Amazon that has the soft cover and the hard cover of the book. Is now on Kindle, so you can just download it. It even has a sample you could download and read first. Then if you like the sample, you could just buy the book, put it on your Kindle, just read it right on your cell phone. It's very easy.
When you were writing this book, did you have that realization in your mind that, whoa, I hit it big in tennis. Sometimes we forget where we came from. Did it like smack you over the head and say, wow, look at what I did at such an early age, multi-million dollar contracts, many million-dollar contracts, endorsements and all of that. Did it, this was buried in your mind, your past. Did it come clear that, wow, look what I did when I was younger?
Yes, I think it did. Yes, I was remembering that over the last number of years. We've been making these podcasts and yeah, putting it all together and reading it on the book. It does really explain how I was doing amazing things with tennis, and that started at a young age, and it continued on to the year 1999. So it was really amazing. And so I think one thing about the book also is putting together all the different things that maybe people didn't notice on TV, all the different names that were there. And I put together the whole history starting from the very young age. And it shows all the different chapters of my playing, just starting off and then really getting noticed that I could play pro tennis, and then all the different things with the chapters of my sponsors and the tennis courts. And one thing of why the book is named My Own Court is because I was such an amazing player. I was always able to hold my own tennis court. If I couldn't hold my own tennis court, I'd have to go on the road and I'd have to go play at someone else's tennis court. But since I was able to keep such an amazing percentage of playing, I was able to keep my own court. And that's really one center point of the book, is from the start to the end, I was able to keep my own court. And that was really what was amazing.
For those of us who are unfamiliar with tennis and terminology, when you say hold or keep your own court, what do you mean?
That is really that when you play some tennis matches, say you would play like say 10 tennis matches, if you were to win most of the tennis matches, you would stay on the same court. You'd be like the king of the court, and you would hold your court, and then other people would have to come to play me. So what would happen is if I wasn't playing very good, if I was winning maybe only 40% of my matches, I wouldn't really hold my court. The sponsors wouldn't really stay interested in me. I'd really sort of go onto the side, and I'd have to try to find my way into going to their court to play. And a lot of times that experience happens when you get older as a player. When you reach where you're going to win maybe 50%, you can go on the road, which isn't too bad. If you're an older player, you can keep playing, and then you have all the experiences of going on the road and playing. But since I was able to hold my own court right to the very end, I was able to keep the high percentage, keep the interest of the sponsors. And that is why I really made it very clear that the whole thing is about my own court, that I was able to keep that tennis court for myself, and
Mm.
they really just came to see me. I didn't mind going places if they told me I had to go play somewhere. I certainly didn't mind going and playing someplace else. But since I was amazing player from the very start, I was able to hold my own court, and that is really what was amazing. I think in the book there were just two little chapters where there was some unfortunate things happening where I played sort of on the road at different tennis locations. They gave me the time, the date, the location, and the match did go ahead. And that was only because there was some really serious things going on where my court had to get closed temporarily, and it wasn't even because of my playing or my contract or anything. And so I did get a little understanding of playing on the road. And at that age, I was able to still win playing on the road. That was sort of a good test that I can go to someone else's court, go to a court just to meet at. And as long as I had some people watching me, videotaping the match, it didn't stop me from playing excellent and winning the match. And that was one good experience about that. I think if we have your own court and people come there, maybe they'd start to think that somehow the court is making me win or something like that. But obviously, going through some things like that, it wasn't true. And I think that started to happen after I graduated from high school and then had to find a new court for myself. So that is when I first started to find the next court away from where I was living and was headed over to court 33. And that was my first court that I was able to hold on my own. And by keeping my playing percentage winning, it then continued on to some other courts. And so that was a really an important step. But the whole thing
Mm.
was really to keep my winning percentage up and keep my own court.
I think we need to repeat for everyone. You were young. This is the mind-blowing part about all of this. Holding your own court and everything that we're discussing here. Let's refresh everyone the age that we're talking about here. Could we do that, John?
Yeah, I think, well, first I started very young, learning with my parents, maybe like the age of like 5 years old, going to the local courts. And from there, the next point was when I was about 9 years old. Um, I was able to bend this new Prince tennis racket. And when my mother brought it back to the pro shop, they immediately saw that and sponsored me. And that started my pro tennis. From there, I just developed on my own and have different things I explained in the book about starting my own tennis club. And then from there, really taking to the tennis matches with my coach and moving up through the tennis rankings and playing in the ATP. And that's really how it happened.
I kind of chuckle inside every time we talk about the racket because essentially it was a broken racket or two that led to this career where you used to smash these rackets in play, not against the wall, and would break them. Wood, there's, if I remember correctly, some issues with metal. And that's where people caught their attention. You caught their attention in terms of, wow, this guy's got a powerful forehand or backhand. We got to look at this. How did you break that racket? Just because of the power in that. Isn't that kind of where it all began for you?
Yes, it did. That's exactly how my tennis strength and they noticed that I could have the ability to swing the racket so fast at a young age, I could bend the racket, and that's from hitting right on the ball.
Wow.
Then I think as I developed, I tried so many rackets. They gave me, I think, approximately like 50 rackets, bending all of them. Some of them broke to pieces. The frames broke. And a lot of it had to do with playing my opponent that would hit the ball very fast too. Um, Sometimes the ball was hitting so fast it was beyond what was legally allowed. I explained that where their racket was strung higher than the amount that was allowed, so the ball was coming there even faster than was really probably made for the racket. And when I would hit the ball back, I would hit the ball back, swinging the racket very freely, using my weight to push into the ball, also swinging my whole body and I'd hit the ball, and if the whole thing was too much for the racket would crack. A lot of times, just the strings would break. I used to stress those rackets when sometimes the strings would break, and when they tried to restring the racket, the whole racket would crack. It was already like a completely cracked, broken racket by that time.
You,
So
you've
those are a
already
few
you already
things.
took care of the integrity of it, and you might a lot of times you don't even see there could be a hairline crack, and they're trying to restring it, and it's pointless because
Yes,
you got your hands on it, John. It's your fault.
they knew what was happening. This was going right to my pro shop, and they were saying the same thing that the rackets, when they tried to restring some of them, they already had cracks in them. They were completely stressed rackets, and they just described what happened as they strung them. The racket would sort of like break into pieces, and the pieces would go flying in the air there, and it was. They thought it was really amazing. I don't know if that's ever happened to them before or not that often, but the few times when the racket was had broken strings, the whole frame was also had cracked, and it was the whole thing would break.
Wow.
So as we went through the different brand rackets, I think the last racket, the Pro Stock, the Babolat racket I had held up very well. And in fact, one my backup rackets, my Prince racket, they made with this little mid bar in it, which was just a production racket, but a quality one. It wasn't a cheap racket. If you back then, if you were to buy it, it had a leather grip. It was $350, not including the stringing, which is
Hmm.
very expensive. For a racket, even today, to buy a $350 racket is very expensive. It was just a very expensive production racket that they made, but it was good quality. And that sort of did last. I broke one of them that was identical. They gave me a couple of them. That racket somehow lasted too. The Babala racket sort of was doing excellent. It wasn't cracking, and the strings were holding up very good. So that stayed for a long time. And so the whole thing with the broken rackets was just very interesting. And I went through all different brands of rackets,
Hmm.
different stringing weights too. They sometimes strung the weight down a little, thinking that that was going to save the racket that wasn't going to crack. But I think my racket strings in the end pretty much only came to like between 60 pounds and 62 pounds.
Hmm.
Today, when I play tennis, most of my rackets they're only strung to like 58 pounds. I don't even string them up to 62 pounds. But years ago, the weight of the string usually came out to about between 60 pounds and 62 pounds. So that is just like a standard stringing weight. It's obviously not going exceeding the racket's strength. The racket's strength for those rackets usually would go up to 65. So if you're stringing
Hmm.
to 62, there's plenty of safety in there, and a lot of it had to do with just hitting the ball back. That the ball was going so fast on the court, and I was swinging the racket very quickly that the racket could break, and a lot of them were breaking.
So tennis question in general, difference between a wood racket and a metal or composite racket. I don't know. I play tennis 3 times a summer. That's it. Need to up my game in a big way. But what's the real fundamental difference of those two types of rackets?
Yes, I think on some earlier podcasts I did with Jill, I showed all these old rackets I had bought. But just to explain quickly, the old rackets were just very simple wood, just a wood frame racket. And then from the wood, what they did is they started to strengthen the wood. They started to do something with like plywood, where the wood was made of layers of wood and it was wrapped around to the handle. And that made it a much stronger racket. Then the next one after that was they tried some different kinds of racket. One of them was a rolled aluminum racket, which seems to bend very easily. And they had different ones like a wood composite that was wood with different materials mixed in there. I think for a while that was working okay. And after that, they started to make a racket out of powdered metal, where they took the powdered metal, put it in a form, and melted it. And that's the racket everyone's using today. The what they did with that is they started to add some graphite with the metal, and the graphite seems to have made the metal stronger. And that's when you get like a metal, it says graphite on it. and that made it a little stronger where it didn't bend, didn't break as easy. And that kind of racket has held out till today. They continue to make the same kind of racket. So in like the mid 1980s, they started making those composite metal rackets. They're still the same today. They aren't too different. They're about the same. I think as far as the rackets, the leather handle racket I feel is a much better racket. You don't really need to put any grip tape over the leather racket. It just
Ah,
gets wet when you use it, it dries, and it's always good. You don't put anything on your hands or anything. It's just a plain handle racket. That's what I always used years ago. I just used a leather racket and the little vibration thing that a lot of people put in their rackets. I always put those in my racket strings today. But back then, those vibration things, they would not last even one game.
mm,
Whenever I put them on one game, the thing would go flying off someplace and forget about it. I couldn't even find it. So I always played with the racket that didn't even have a vibration thing on it. There was no way that it could stay on the racket. So it just goes with the plain pro stock racket made of metal, usually graphite, leather grip, and strings strung to say between 60 pounds or 62 pounds. And that's like the basic pro stock racket. I think the quality production rackets are made the same way. I think just from playing today, I have tried a lot of the new rackets, and I see a lot of them have different things called a replacement grip racket. It's made of like synthetic vinyl, and then you could just buy a new grip and put it on, take the old one off, put it on. So it's sort of like you're doing your own leather replacement, but it's made of synthetic material. And that's an interesting thing. I was playing with that for a while. They have that on
mm.
some of the rackets, and then they still have the over grips. They have the Torno ornament grips that are very thin. You put those on, you change them, and they have the slightly thicker ones you could use, and it's lasts a little longer. But I think overall the leather grip is really the best grip, and you don't have to play with the putting tape on it or anything.
Mm.
It's
One
always
one quick question on the tape because I'm learning, and if I'm dealing with playing 3 or 4 times in the summer, others probably deal with this. No matter what tape I use, if it comes with the racket, if I add something to it, it always comes off, or it just. What's the secret? What kind of grips should you have on there?
yeah. I think a lot of times if you're just playing a match and you want to make sure you have a good grip, you just use that temporary blue grip. It's like
Okay.
a corner grip. You just put it on, you put the tape on, and then if it wears off, because the idea of it, you could just take it off real quick, and you could put a new one right on.
Wow.
So that is a lot of people are playing that way today. Some people they used to put that over grip on years ago too. I think overall too, if you wanted to jump ahead to the best side is just to have a leather grip. But with those, I still use those.
Hmm.
A lot of times the blue grip I put it on if I'm sharing a racket with someone, I'll put a new blue grip on, share it, and I can always take the blue grip and throw it away and then put a new over grip in a few minutes. This is easy to do. It's always fun to wrap the handles and put the tape on. I think you're doing things as a sort of like getting to know the racket. You're playing with it, putting the grip on. I mean, that's always fun to do. So I do those. A lot of the rackets I have, I use the blue grip sometimes. I have some rackets with just the over grip. I bought some used rackets. Some of them, the handles were a little worn down, so I might put the thick grip over it or something like that
Sure.
just to have it so it works pretty good. And uh, yeah, so that's really what's going on with the racket grip. The racket grip it hasn't changed too much. I think the only new one was really that replacement grip where you really take it right down to the handle of the racket and they give you a new one and you just put it right on and it's like you did your own brand new grip. I
Wow.
think one interesting thing about that is you could buy a better quality. They sell a leather one. So if you want, you could take the synthetic one off, then put the leather one on, and then you really don't have to change the grip that often and it works pretty good.
We have a couple of minutes left here talking about your new book. Big history, big journey in your tennis career as a legend. What's your favorite part of the book? What aspect of that journey is one of your favorites to write about and let us read about?
I think one thing is really the step from me getting sponsored when I was like 9 years old and going through those early stages of making a tennis club and then advancing into the pros was really something memorable and sort of a nice story. I think just as far as basic everyday story for someone to read, that is really fun to read. I think anyone could understand that when they're young, wanting to put that together. And I show how to have a few friends that were helping me with that, and they liked my tennis. And it was sort of good because at that age, when they were saying about uh, like I was going to start to play better tennis, and they, instead of saying no, they don't want to help me, they said yes, they want to help me advance in playing pro tennis at age in those school years. So I think that
Hmm.
was pretty good. I mean, that was a good thing. I think that was one really interesting part of the book that is really, I think anyone could understand and maybe enjoy reading it. And that also was really part of my own court, because that whole thing, when I was playing, even at that young age, led to where I kept my own court, didn't have to go to other courts, and really I show how I slowly improved playing in the percentages, just
Did you
learning
know?
and improving.
Let's go all the way back. When you were 9, 10 years old, did you, in the back of your mind, look at these major tennis players of the day and think, man, I want to be like them? Or were you just playing? You were just having fun playing, perfecting the game again, 9, 10, 11 year old. Um, and then it just kind of happened. Were you
Yeah,
looking at
I
them?
think I sort of just liked the game of playing tennis. I started off playing with my father, mother, and my brothers,
Mhm.
and we weren't watching TV, watching pros on television. We just went there and started to play, and I sort of liked playing tennis. And I got an idea that I could play professional tennis.
Oh,
And so as I started to play later on, as I developed playing with the my own club, it was really the enjoyment of playing tennis was really the main thing. And then whenever I was always given the like the hint or getting told that I could really play pro tennis from the whole tennis club and watching my tennis was really sort of very like very made me happy. It gives you like a happy feeling that
mm.
I was able to really achieve at the playing the tennis, and I was progressing good. But I think the whole thing was based on just having tennis playing for fun. And
I
so
I
that
ha-
was
I go
really
and tell
good.
you, John, when you just started talking about that you were playing for fun and you just enjoyed the game so much, I could feel it. I could see it in your smile that it was a passion then and it's a passion now. And I want everybody to know. Share the name of the book.
Yes, it's My Own Court, the life story of tennis legend John Riggio.
Available on Amazon, over to Kindle now, audio version coming very soon. If somebody wants to learn more about the architecture side of you, and if I remember last time or a while back we got together, there's also a tennis section of your website, John Riggio, Riggio.com. Wonderful having you on here again, and just digging back into the game and your history. And again, John, congratulations on the book.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.